They say that modern man is more connected than ever, but what no one talks about is the silent price he is paying for it. In a world where every notification is a cry for attention and every immediate response is treated as a sign of validation, the man who does not react becomes a threat, or worse, a mystery. And that is exactly where power lies. The truth that no one has told you, and that goes against everything that the culture of social performance preaches, is that the most desired man is not the one who speaks the best, acts the fastest, or adapts the most. It is the man who knows how to stop. The man who knows how to observe. The man who, even surrounded by chaos, is able to remain whole. He does not compete for anyone's affection because he has already won the internal war. He does not sell himself for attention because his presence is enough. And this presence makes women restless. The reason for this is not superficial charm or well-rehearsed phrases. It is in what the philosopher Ortega y Gasset called yield through fascination. True seduction begins not when the other person understands you, but when he loses himself trying to decipher you. And in this silent game of presence and absence, the calm man becomes an enigma that challenges the feminine instinct for control. Because, deep down, a woman doesn't just want someone who reacts to her. She wants someone who resists her, not brutally but elegantly, not coldly, but with self-control. Because it's this contrast that ignites the emotional game. And what's more, it's this contrast that reveals who's leading the dance. But here's the brutal contradiction. We live in a generation that confuses presence with performance. Men bend over backwards in anxiety to have lively conversations, to respond in seconds, to prove that they're interesting, to show that they're different. But all of this screams desperation, because what was meant to be natural has now become a validation marathon. And what should attract begins to repel. Women sense, even if unconsciously, when a man is trying too hard. And what many people mistake for empathy, care, or affection, she sees as neediness, weakness, and predictability. And if there is one thing that kills attraction, it is predictability. A man who explains himself too much, who apologizes for every silence, who tries to fill every empty space, is, without realizing it, revealing that he is not his own boss. And this, in the eyes of women, is not only uninteresting, it is uncomfortable. Because unlike what most people think, silence is not a void to be filled. It is a territory to be conquered. Nietzsche said that happiness is the feeling that power grows. And when a woman feels that she is in total control of a relationship, when she foresees every step the man will take, there is no more growth. There is no more tension. All that remains is boredom. That's why the calm man, the one who doesn't get upset when she disappears, who doesn't change his tone because she's been blunt, who doesn't lower his posture to avoid conflict, becomes almost an addiction. He doesn't just break the pattern of behavior she's come to expect. He creates a new benchmark, a new code. He shows her that her validation is welcome but never necessary. And that changes everything. Because while all the other men are running around, this man is sitting back. While all the other men are talking, he's watching. While all the other men are begging to be chosen, he's living as if he's already chosen himself. And there's nothing more seductive than that. But this kind of calm isn't apathy. It's not disinterest. It's emotional dominance. It's the kind of firmness that doesn't show itself by shouting, but by not shouting at her. It's the kind of presence that doesn't need to impose itself, because it already occupies the space. And when a woman encounters this, something inside her goes into conflict. Because no matter how much social discourse tells her that she wants a man who puts her at the center of everything, her instincts scream for someone who stays at the center of himself. Someone who is capable of leading, not with authority, but with magnetism. And this magnetism is not born of effort, it is born of control. That is what this video will show you. Not how to be louder, funnier, or more communicative, but how to master that which few men even realize they are losing, their own access. And it is in this mastery, silent, subtle, but powerful, that you stop chasing and start attracting. Because when you become the only man who does not need attention to feel complete, you become the only one she cannot ignore. Get ready, because from now on, you will discover what it means to be truly dangerous, in the best sense of the word. What scares most men is not the absence of words, but the weight of silence itself. They feel naked in the face of stillness, as if they were being judged for what they don't say. And perhaps they are. Because it is in that space between what is said and what is held back that true power resides. Most have learned that presence is made with noise. But the brutal truth is that the most magnetic men are those who dominate the room without needing to dominate it. They don't compete for attention. They attract it. And not by force, but by the absence of it. They are the ones who sit silently in a room while everyone else tries to prove something. They are the ones who, even without saying a word, make women change their posture, adjust their hair, look twice. They are rare, because being calm in a desperate world is a revolutionary act. And here is the most ignored detail. Male calm is not apathy. It is not omission. It is, above all, the result of a conflict won within oneself. A calm man has already fought against his own ghosts. He has faced the fear of rejection. He has felt the silence after being ignored. He has felt the urgency to respond quickly so as not to lose someone. But today, he doesn't run anymore. Because he understood that those who run lose their bearings. And when you lose your bearings, you lose respect. Hers and your own. True authority is not imposed, it is felt. And this silent authority is what women miss the most, even if they don't know how to put it into words. This brings us to a glaring cultural contradiction. While they say that women want emotional men, present, communicative, what they really can't resist is the one who doesn't bow to their emotional intensity. The one who knows how to listen without being swallowed up. The one who knows how to look someone in the eye without losing focus. The one who knows how to say no without a tremor in his voice. Because this man doesn't mold himself to please. He remains to lead. And leadership, in this case, is not about giving orders, it's about sustaining. Sustaining silence, sustaining discomfort, sustaining the gaze, sustaining tension. And all this is only possible when you master one thing, your own reaction. Reactive men are predictable. Calm men are read as dangerous, because you never know exactly what he is thinking, and the unknown attracts. This is basic neuroscience. The female brain, conditioned to stimulation and anticipation, responds more intensely to what it does not understand than to what it masters. This is why the nice, friendly, funny, and available guy does not generate addiction. He generates comfort. But emotional comfort, when not achieved, turns into boredom. The calm man, on the other hand, creates a type of controlled discomfort. He makes her wonder, what could he have thought with that look? Does he like me, or is he just being polite? Why hasn't he responded yet? Has he forgotten me, or is he watching me? This field of internal questions that she starts repeating when you don't react is where the fascination is born, because there is nothing more powerful than making a woman think of you when you are not trying to be remembered. And it starts with a single decision. Stop explaining. Most men, accustomed to early rejection or fear of misinterpretation, create the toxic habit of justifying everything. Sorry for the delay. It's not that I didn't want to. It's just that I lost signal. I'm not distant. I'm just tired. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just that I'm more reserved. But each of these phrases, no matter how well-intentioned they may seem, screams one thing: have mercy on me. And pity is the death of desire. A calm man, on the other hand, does not rush to clear up misunderstandings. He does not feel he needs to prove his intentions. If she doesn't understand, she asks. If she disappears, he does not go after her. If she leaves, he does not beg. Because his value is firmly anchored within him. He does not need to rush to protect an image. He is the image. And that becomes power. You start to notice this power in subtle details. You enter a room, and instead of wanting to be noticed, you focus on observing. You talk less, but when you do, everyone listens. You don't seek approval with forced jokes, nor do you try to create a connection with cliches. You just are. And being is enough. Because your tranquility doesn't come from apathy. It comes from certainty. And male certainty is one of the most seductive forces in the world. Not because it shouts, but because it doesn't need to. This posture is present in great icons in history. Think of Marlon Brando in The Godfather. He barely moves, barely raises his voice, but all the power in the room revolves around his restrained voice. Or think of James Bond, not the explosive and arrogant one, but the cold, lethal, measured Bond, who speaks with his eyes and transforms silence into sexual tension. These men are archetypes of something that goes far beyond aesthetics. They are the projection of internal dominance. A mastery that is only possible when you stop living like a walking request for approval. And here comes the hardest part to swallow. Most modern men are emotionally castrated. They have lost the courage to stand firm in the face of a female gaze that demands a reaction. They give too much, explain too much, try too hard, because deep down, they still believe that women will choose them out of compassion. But women don't want what they have to carry. They want what they have to decipher. And that changes everything. Because the man who positions himself as a question instead of an answer dominates the psychological field. And in this domain, he doesn't need to chase, he watches her run. But calmness is not improvised, it is trained. It is born from nights when you were ignored and still remained firm. From days when you wanted to send a desperate message, but preferred to get up from your chair and go train. From situations in which you wanted to explain yourself, but preferred to let the silence build curiosity. Each of these small choices shapes your nervous system to withstand what the weak avoid, discomfort. And discomfort is the cradle of attraction. Remember, the man who causes fascination is the one who does not compete with the noise. He becomes the silence. The man who leads does not need the last word. He knows that, deep down, the last sensation is what defines the game. And a woman, when she feels that a man does not get shaken, that he remains calm in the face of tests, silences, provocations, something in her reorganizes. Because now she is in front of someone who is not trying to be chosen. He is just being who he is, and that is irresistible. But make no mistake, this does not make you insensitive, it makes you precise. Because now, every word you say is worth more, every gesture you make is noticed, every look has intention. You have become scarce, and what is scarce is valuable. This is the basis of silent magnetism. And when you master this, you realize that it is not you who changes for her, it is she who changes for you. And it all started when you learned to be silent. You grew up hearing that you need to show effort to win someone over. Since you were a kid, you were taught that the path to a woman's heart is paved with flowers, messages, compliments, and demonstrations. Be romantic, they said. Show that you care. The problem is that the more you followed this manual, the more you were pushed into the zone of the too nice, the cute, the ones who are remembered with affection, but never with desire. And that's where the great tragedy of modern masculinity lies. It was trained to please, but never to attract. Because pleasing is predictable, attracting is enigmatic. And when you start playing by the rules that were written to make you harmless, you realize that you're always one step behind. She answers you when she wants, tests your patience, rewards you with crumbs, and still you run. You respond. You give in. You fall apart to maintain something that, in fact, was never solid. And what's even crueler, the more you do, the less she feels it. Because you haven't realized that the game you're trying to win can only be won when you stop playing. The man who reverses the dynamic is the one who stops trying to win her desire and starts to dominate his own. He doesn't chase her, not because of strategy, but because he understood that every desperate move is a declaration of inferiority. He understood that those who desire too much reveal neediness. And neediness, when exposed, doesn't generate connection. It generates pity. And pity is camouflaged aversion. The woman may even feel compassion, but if she feels that you need her to validate your existence, she'll leave. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, she's no longer with you. That's why silence became a weapon. Because silence disarms the pattern that she talks less and the man talks more. That she tests and he justifies, that she walks away and he compensates. But when you keep quiet, when you don't react, when you allow discomfort to set in, she starts to go into crisis. Because for the first time, she is not in control of the rhythm. And when she is not in control of the rhythm, she begins to doubt her own strength. This creates friction. And from friction, fascination is born. This fascination only happens when you become unpredictable. Not by playing games, but by refusing to be just another character in the narrative she has already memorized. She flirts and you don't bite. She tests and you smile. She gives cold answers and you disappear. No drama, no speeches, just firm presence and silent decision. The common man reacts, the rare man observes, and the one who observes calmly dominates with elegance. There is something ancestral in this posture. Think of the great leaders of history. Those who transformed environments, wars, empires. None of them shouted to be heard. They spoke when it was necessary. They acted when everyone was lost. Because they knew that true authority is born from the ability to endure chaos without dissolving in it. And today, in an era where everyone is desperate for attention, the man who doesn't beg for presence becomes presence. This silent presence has a devastating effect on female behavior. It breaks the script. And by breaking the script, it reveals the truth. That often what seemed like a cold attitude was just an expectation of control. That what she called lack of interest was in fact an emotional challenge that she herself doesn't know how to deal with. Because the man who doesn't run forces the woman to walk. And when she starts to walk, she starts to feel. And when she feels without understanding, she connects. But this is only possible when you endure the discomfort of absence. The emptiness that sets in when you don't send that message. The silence that echoes when you don't respond to the "hi, I've been missing." The uncertainty that appears when you don't explain yourself. It hurts, but it's a sacred pain. It's the pain of rebuilding your axis. It's the pain that frees you from the prison of needing to be accepted. Because once you go through this pain, you become dangerous. And the danger here is not destructive. It is magnetic. Because now you emanate an energy that says, I don't need to prove anything to you. I am. And this I am is a reminder to her that she is in front of someone who will not mold himself to her mood, nor to the social script. You are not trying to fit in, you are the mold, and everything that does not align with this vibration naturally moves away. And everything that truly desires strength approaches. Robert Greene used to say that the true seducer does not seek, he creates the field. He plants desire without ever offering guarantees. He seduces with absence, with mystery, with what he does not reveal. And in this game, the woman does not fall for him. She gets lost in it because she cannot predict, and everything that cannot be predicted is addictive. It is pure neurochemistry. The human brain seeks patterns, and when it does not find them, it returns, it insists, it stays, and you have become the broken pattern. But be careful. Do not confuse this with coldness. The cold man repels. The calm man attracts. Coldness is a defense. Calmness is a conviction. The cold man protects himself because he fears being touched. The calm man exposes himself without fear because he knows that nothing can unsettle him. He can hear a no without reacting. He can be tested without being shaken. He can be rejected without losing his composure because he does not depend on anyone's yes to remain whole. This is the key to turning the game around. When you understand that the control of the relationship is not in words, but in the emotions that you can control, everything changes. You do not change her behavior by demanding. You change her behavior by changing what you accept. And when you stop accepting emotional crumbs, she notices. And when she notices, either she falls in line or disappears. And in both cases, you have won. Because the man who stops chasing starts walking in his own direction. And on this journey, he finds women who do not want to control him, but respect him. Who do not want to test him, but admire him. Who do not just want affection, but structure. Because every woman who lives in internal chaos secretly dreams of a man who is calm. Not one who will save her, but one who will not get lost with her. Who will stand tall while everything else falls apart. And this man is not built with speeches. He is built with decisions. The first one, stop playing. Because the game only exists for those who are afraid of losing. And when you understand that there is no loss when you remain whole, you free yourself. You no longer play. You observe, you feel, you act when necessary, you withdraw when it is time, you lead without controlling. And this leadership is what she has always sought, even if she has never admitted it. Deep down, every woman wants to be touched by a man who does not need to touch her to be remembered. A man who, even when absent, remains. Who, even when silent, leaves his mark. Who, even when distant, is still a reference. This man does not need to shout. He breathes. And when he breathes, everything around him changes, including her. Most men believe that the peak of seduction is the moment when a woman finally gives in. That when she says yes, when she surrenders, when she accepts, the game is over. But the truth is that the true peak is not when she gives in. It's when she starts chasing. When even in silence, she remains present. When even without guarantees, she still seeks answers. When even surrounded by options, she wants to understand why only you remain on her mind. And this doesn't happen because you were the most affectionate, the funniest, the most accessible. It happens because you were the most present, without ever having to show yourself too much. Presence is a misunderstood word. Most people think that being present means being available. That being present means always being ready, always friendly, always responsive. But that's not presence. That's anxiety disguised as attention. Real presence is not immediate surrender, it's concentrated energy. It's the ability to be fully where you are without having to multiply yourself to be accepted. And this wholeness is what she never forgets. Because look, what exists most today are men who fill her time. But what hardly exists are men who take up space in her mind. And to occupy this space, you need to stop running to the center. You need to build this center within yourself. A center that does not move in the face of a confused look, a sudden silence, an emotional test. Because the tests will come. They always come. And not because she is cruel, but because the female unconscious needs to know, can this man handle my intensity? Will this man melt with my drama? Will this man lose his bearings when I go off script? And here's the breaking point. Most people can't handle it. Most people justify themselves, rush, explain themselves, because they still carry the fear of being misunderstood. But the man who knows what he carries inside himself is no longer afraid of being misread. He understands that he doesn't need to decode his own essence to be accepted, because he is not selling himself. He is just being. And this being is what destabilizes her, because she begins to realize that your reactions do not change with her mood, that your energy does not fluctuate with her absence, that your firmness does not depend on her approval. And when this happens, she leaves control mode and enters curiosity mode. And curiosity, when mixed with sexual tension, becomes emotional obsession. But be careful. Do not confuse this movement with arrogance. The arrogant man tries to appear superior. The calm man does not try anything. He simply occupies his own body with such completeness that everything around him has to reorganize itself to keep up with him. And this is rare, because most people still live on the outside. Most people still seek in the outside what they should find in the inside. But when you invert this logic, you become a reference, a pull, an emotional gravitational center. At this point, the game has already changed, because you are no longer trying to be interesting. You are interesting precisely because you are not trying. And this breaks the social code that she knows. Because all the rest of the men are still in show your worth mode. They're still competing to see who responds faster, who gives better compliments, who seems more mature. But you're not competing. You've already won. You've overcome the fear of not being liked. You've overcome the need to prove yourself. You've overcome the urge to be accepted. And that silent victory is what she notices. She won't admit it, at least not at first. But you'll see it in her eyes, in the frequency with which she shows up, in the longer messages, in the attempts to test your attention, in the invitations disguised as questions. And if you hold firm, it will only increase. Because now it's not about you anymore. It's about what you trigger in her. And what you trigger in her is rare. It's the desire to conquer what seems unattainable. Not because you hide, but because you don't need to be seen all the time. Marilyn Monroe said, "A man who doesn't look twice is the one who draws the most attention." Because what is not offered becomes valuable. What is not explained becomes intriguing. What is not justified becomes desirable. And here comes the key point. Female desire is driven not only by what is beautiful, but mainly by what is mysterious. And mystery is not a game. It is a natural consequence of a man who does not feel the need to be deciphered. He is. And that is enough. This man is not afraid of silence. He knows that silence is where power is built. He does not rush to clear up doubts, because he knows that a woman who feels returns. A woman who doubts, thinks, and a woman who thinks feels more. Obsession is not born in certainty. It is born in the absence of it. And that is why a calm man, even in silence, becomes unforgettable. This is exactly what the philosopher Ortega y Gasset pointed out when he spoke about surrender by fascination. True surrender does not happen through rational persuasion. It happens when the presence of another person stirs something we cannot explain. When their mere existence activates something primal, irrational, almost spiritual. This type of presence cannot be trained with ready-made phrases. It can be trained with posture, with control, with emotional practice. And if you have come this far and understood this, you have already begun to become this man. The man who walks with a firm step, who does not lower his tone to be accepted, who does not raise his voice to be respected. The man who transforms the environment with just his energy. Because now, you are no longer the man who runs. You are the man who walks, and as you walk, you make the world follow. She feels this, she notices it, even if it takes time, even if she resists, because her instinct recognizes strength. And strength is not noise, strength is consistency, it is firmness, it is peace. And peace is what is most lacking in the modern world. That is why the man who brings peace becomes the new symbol of power. Not the one who dominates by shouting, but the one who leads by silence. And when he leads, she follows. You don't need to be the most handsome, or the richest, or the most extroverted. What you need is to be the rarest. And today, in the world of hyper-availability, overexposure, and constant emotional performance, there is nothing rarer than a calm man. A man who masters his own rhythm, who doesn't rush to be accepted, who doesn't mold himself to be chosen, who lives as if he were already complete. This man is not only desirable, he is necessary, because he represents the opposite of what everyone expects. He doesn't beg, he doesn't react, he doesn't despair. He observes, he listens, he responds when necessary, and he keeps quiet when it is more powerful to let silence speak. This man disturbs because he cannot be manipulated. He seduces because he cannot be anticipated. He leads because he doesn't need to convince anyone to follow him. He simply walks, firmly, with presence, with truth. And that's when the game changes. When you stop seeking the effect and start embodying the cause. When you no longer try to provoke desire, but become the kind of man who naturally activates it. Not by tricks, not by tactics, but because you carry something that cannot be taught in books. Center. And that center is the difference between the man who is always running and the man who is being chased. Today, you have gained access to something that most people will spend their lives not understanding. That true male dominance is not strength, it is restraint. That true charm is not in words, it is in the pause between them. And that true power is not what imposes, but what remains. Remains even in the face of chaos. Remains even in the face of doubt. Remains even when everything tells you to run. Now, it is up to you to decide. Keep reacting, begging, justifying, or stop. Stop explaining yourself. Stop selling yourself. Stop trying to prove who you are, and just be. Because the moment you do that, something changes. Not just in women, but in the world. You start to be treated differently. You start to be perceived as different. And the best part, you start to feel different. More whole, more solid, more alive. This is the invitation. But it's not for everyone. It's for those who are ready to go through discomfort. For those who are ready to be silent when everything around them is asking for noise. For those who are ready to lead without needing to control. If you are one of these people, your journey begins now.